Shalom, we're continuing with Perek Chaf. Remember, we have just learned that Avshalom was killed. David returns in triumph to Yerushalayim. But there's a big machlokas in which the Anshe Yehuda were the ones that escorted him, and the Anshe Yisrael, the 10 tribes, are angry and they feel that they've been slighted. And as a result, there's going to be a breakaway rebellion once again. All of this, remember, is an onesh to David HaMelech that Nasan HaNavi foretold that would happen because of the chait of David and Bathsheba. V'sham nikra ish b'lial, there was a bad person, ushmo Sheva ben Bichri ish Yemini, again from Binyamin. Vayitka b'shayfer, he blew a shayfer. Vayomer ein lanu chelek b'David. We have no portion in David. David is with his buddies in Shevet Yehuda. He doesn't care about us, and he's going to punish us. V'lo nachal alanu ben Yishai. We have no inheritance with the son of Yishai. Ish li'ay halav Yisrael. Let us separate from David. Each person should go to his tent. And indeed, amazingly, Vayal kol ish Yisrael me'acharei David acharei Sheva ben Bichri. And all of the Ish Yisrael, except for Anshe Yehuda, they followed Sheva ben Bichri. The Ish Yehuda davku b'malka min hayardin ad Yerushalayim. But the Anshe Yehuda remained, they were dovuk, they attached themselves to their king, traveling from the Yarden to Yerushalayim. And now David finally comes back to Yerushalayim itself. Vayavai David al Beisa Yerushalayim. Vayikach hamelech es eser nashim pilagshim asher hiniach lishmar abayis. Vayitneim beis mishmeres vayichalkaleim. Vayaleim loiba. Vatiena tsururais ad yom musan almanas chayis. If you remember, you have to remember a little back that David had left 10 of his concubines in Yerushalayim, and Avshalom, at the advice of Achisaifel, who had committed suicide, slept, had intercourse, could be forcible intercourse, with these pilakshim to demonstrate his disdain for his father and the fact that he was asserting prerogatives of the melech. And now David comes back and finds these unfortunate women. And the pasuk actually says, because they were raped, so to speak, or abused by David's son Avshalom, it was no longer coveting for David to maintain a marital or a quasi-marital relationship with them. And as a result, he supported them. But sadly, they are described as living widows, in which they couldn't marry other people, because once you were married to the melech, or even a pilegesh of the melech, you're usher lehejait. But the melech could no longer be with them either because of the bizayon, and they remained living widows. It's not clear, al pi halacha, why this would be the case, because if they were not married, then the fact that Avshalom was with them would not aser, and even if they were married, they were nenzu if it was against their will. So most Meforshim learned that this was a voluntary decision that David made because of the bizayon. Now, if you remember, David replaced Yoav as general with Yoav's cousin Amasa, who had been Avshalom's general. So now David is speaking to Amasa instead of Yoav. Vayomer hamelech el Amasa. The king then says to his new general, Amasa, Hazek li yasish Yehuda shloishes yamim. I'm giving you 3 days to assemble an army of Anshe Yehuda in order to fight against Shimi ben Gera. V'yata po amayid, you stay with me here and send out shluchim to assemble the army. V'yelech Amasa l'hazek Yehuda, and Amasa sent shluchim to stir up Yehuda. However, vayuchar min amayid asher ya'adai. He was late. He was supposed to have the army assembled in 3 days. He was not able to come back in time with an assembled army. So David does not turn to Yoav, but he turns to Yoav's brother Avishai. Vayomer David al Avishai. David says to Avishai, Ata yera lanu Sheva ben Bichri min Avshalom. Sheva ben Bichri will do worse to us than even Avshalom. Ata kaches avdei adeinecha, take the servants of your master, meaning my avodim, even though we don't have a whole army. Redaif acharav, try to pursue him. Maybe we could kill Shimi, and that would cause his army to scatter. Pen matzalai orim betzurais. We want to get Shimi before he finds a fortified city to take refuge. V'hitzil einenu, and in that way he will save himself from our eyes. May einenu. So Avishai was able to get these soldiers who formerly fought for Yayav. Crazy and Placey means the archers and the slingshot throwers. V'chol hagibarim, all the great military heroes. Vayetzu miyushalayim lirdaf acharei Sheva ben Bichri, and they went to pursue Sheva ben Bichri. Haim am Evan Hagdaila asher begivain. And as they were passing a big stone in the town of Givon near Yerushalayim, that was a landmark, Amasa ba lifneim. Amasa is now coming back with his army. Again, they're fighting on the same side. Now Yayav is not general anymore. Yayav is just a soldier. But Yayav is with Avishai, his brother. Chogor midai, he is wearing his armaments. Levushai, his military garments or his armor. V'yolav chagor cherev mitzumedet al masnav, and he has a sword that's attached to his thigh. It's in its sheath, betara, in its sheath. V'hu yatzav atipal, but it's kind of loose, and the sheath is bent, turned over, so the sword kind of seems to be falling out, and Yayav needs to hold it. You'll see why he's doing it this way. Vayomer Yayav li Amasa, and Yayav says to Amasa, his cousin, who has replaced him as general, Hashalayim ata'achi, is everything b'shalayim? Vataychas yad yamin Yayav, and Yayav's right hand grabs the beard of Amasa to draw him near, seemingly linshaiklai, to kiss him, his cousin. Now, the sword is falling out, so Yayav, in effect, is holding on to that sword with his hand, with his left hand. Amasa lo nishmar b'cherev asher biyad Yayav. Amasa does not notice that Yayav is holding on to that sword. V'yakeu ba el achaimesh, and Yayav smites him by sticking the sword under the fifth rib. Same way Yayav killed other people. Vayishpaich meyav arza, and all of Amasa's intestines were spilled. Now again, there's absolutely no reason to kill Amasa. Maybe Yayav has some halachic pretense that because Amasa went with Avshalom, he's a married b'malchus and he's chayav misa. But David forgave him, and David made him general. The melech can be meichel on that for sure. It's not like a psak based in. Yayav killed him because Yayav was jealous at the fact that Amasa took over his position. Very, very amazing, very, very shver. V'lai shanalai. Yayav didn't have to do a second thrust. He killed him with the first thrust. Vayamais. Amasa died. And now Yayav and Avishai, his brother, they're running after Shivi ben Bichri. And they kind of just leave him to die, and they continue the mission. V'yesh amad alav minare Yayav. But one of Yayav's men was standing over the body, so people shouldn't be looking at the body. Vayomer, mi asher chafetz b'Yayav, mi asher leDavid achrei Yayav. Whoever wants to be with Yayav and whoever is loyal to David should follow Yayav. Forget about Amasa. Amasa's dead, doesn't count. V'Amasa misgailo b'dam b'teicha mesila. Amasa is kind of rolling over in the blood of his own body on the road. Vayaro ish, and this loyalist of Yayav sees, Kiyamat Kalam, people are staring. What happened here? Amasa was the king's general, and now he's dead? What's going on? So, what did the man do? Vayase v'samasa min amasila hasadeh. He simply moved Amasa's body out of the road into a field. Vayashlech olav beged, he threw a garment over him, a blanket over him. Kasher ra'ah kol haba alav v'yamer. When he saw that everybody was watching, looking at Amasa's body, he just moved him into the field and covered him up. And then, kasher hoga min ha-mesila, when Amasa's body was removed from the road, avar kolish acharei Yoav, so now Yoav is the big shot again. Everybody follows Yoav, lirdaif acharei Sheva ben Bichri, to pursue Sheva ben Bichri. Vayavor b'chol shiftei Yisrael, and Yoav's army is going through all of the tribal areas, Avela, till they reach through Avela as a town, Beis Macha, v'chol haberim, these are areas, Vayikahalu, v'yavo achrav, and the armies of Yehuda are following Yoav. Vayavayu v'yatsuru olav b'Avela, and they finally besiege Sheva ben Bichri in Avela. That is where Sheva ben Bichri is holed up. Beis Hamacha. Vayishbachu, so this is a walled city. Vayishbachu Seila Eloir. They put mounds of dirt and stones so they could climb over the wall. V'tamod bachel, so they could stand on the pile. V'chol ha'am asher et Yoav mashchisim lahapil hachoma. And not only that, but they have this height, and they also want to destroy the wall with battering rams. So they're going to destroy the city in order to get Sheva ben Bichri. Vatikra isha chachama min ha'ir. There is a wise woman. Yoav often has conversations with wise women. There was a wise woman from the city of Avela, and she called out, Shimu, Shimu, listen. She's calling out to the Anshe Yehuda, the army that's attacking her city. Listen, listen. Imrun al Yoav. Please tell Yoav, your general, Krav adheina, come to the wall, v'adabra elecha. I want to speak to you. Vayikrav eleha. And Yoav came near to the city. Of course, that's a little dangerous because we had situations where people were killed by a woman throwing a millstone, so he really shouldn't have put himself so close to the wall. But he went. Vataimer ha'isha. Ha'ata Yoav, are you Yoav? Vayimer ani. Yeah. Vataimer lai. Shema divrei amasacha. Please listen to the words of your maidservant. Vayimer shomei anochi. I'm listening. Vataimer leimar. And she says, why are you simply destroying the city without asking us first if we'll give you Sheva ben Bichri? Dabra yidabra b'rishayna leimar. You should have spoken to us first. Sha'ol yishalu b'Avel. You should have asked the people of Avel. V'chein heitamu, and the matter would have been completed. Anochi shalumei emune Yisrael. I am the faithful ones of Klal Yisrael, who wants shalom and not milchama. Ata mevakesh lahamit ir v'hem b'Yisrael. You want to destroy a city that is like a mother, right? This is a famous expression. Ir v'hem, a city that is like a mother in Am Yisrael in terms of all of the beautiful people it produces. Lama sivala nachalas Hashem. Why do you want to swallow up and destroy the inheritance of Hashem? Vayan Yoav vayaymar. Yoav said, Chalila, Chalila li imavala v'imashchis. I don't want to destroy or swallow up. Lo keina davor. I'm looking for one specific guy. Ki ish mehar Ephraim Sheva ben Bichri shmo. There is a man from the mountains of Ephraim. Now this is a little shver because Sheva ben Bichri is described as from the tribe of Binyamin. Binyamin had its own territory. Why would he be Har Ephraim? But apparently we know that there were people of other tribes within tribal areas. So apparently Sheva ben Bichri had property or lived in Mount Ephraim, the mountainous areas of Ephraim. And I'm looking for Sheva ben Bichri, Nasi Yadev Melech b'David. He has raised his hand in rebellion against David. Tenu oso levado. Deliver him. V'yelcha miyaleh, I'll leave the city alone. V'taimer ha'isha el Yayav. And the woman said to Yayav, Hinei reishay mushlachei lecha b'yad ha'chayma. We will throw his head to you as proof of his execution. We will kill him. V'tava ha'isha el kol ha'am v'chachmasa. And she went back to her city, and she said, we have to kill Sheva ben Bichri, and that will take Yayav away from us. Vayichresu es rei Sheva ben Bichri v'yashlichu el Yayav. And then, so Yayav will cancel the campaign. Vayitka b'shayfar. Yayav then blew the shayfar. V'yafutzu mi'al ha'ir. Ish li'ayalav and all of his army dispersed. They left the city. V'yayav shav Yerushalayim el HaMelech. Now, this particular case is actually brought down by the Rambam in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah to Parakeh to establish an important halachic position. It's from a Tosefta in Trumais and a Yerushalmi. If Goyim surround a city, and the Goyim say, give us somebody, we're going to kill one Jew, but if you don't give us somebody, we'll wipe out the whole city, the halacha is very clear that even if we don't deliver him, we're all going to die. We are not allowed to kill or be meiser lahariga one person, even if everybody dies, because the idea of my chazis, who says your life is any better, doesn't only apply to 1-to-1, but even 1,000,000 to 1. But the Rambam says, let's say the guy does not say, give us anybody, but they're miyached, they ask for a specific person, give us Ruvain, and if you don't give us Ruvain, we're going to kill the whole city. So there the Rambam says, if Ruvain is guilty of something for which he's chayav misa, we are allowed to deliver him lahariga in order to save the city. And the raya to that is Sheva ben Bichri. Yayav is essentially telling the city, although it's not so beferish in the narrative, give me Sheva ben Bichri or I'll wipe you out. So note that there are two conditions. Yayav is asking for a specific person, and the specific person is Chayav Misa. So in such a situation, says the Rambam, based on the Sheva ben Bichri narrative, we can be meiser him lahariga. Now, I have a few kashas on this. We don't have time to be mafalpel. Number one, why does the Rambam say we could be meiser him to the goyim lahariga? In the actual narrative, we were allowed to kill him. The Rambam should have said even more, we can kill him to be matzel the city. But the second kasha I have is, what are you proving from Sheva ben Bichri? The Rambam seems to say that the heter to kill Sheva ben Bichri, because he's chayav misa, is pikuach nefesh of the city. We can kill him because otherwise we're going to die. Which implies, in other words, that if Yayav simply asked for Sheva ben Bichri, but he didn't threaten them with hariga, they wouldn't have to give him over, and they wouldn't be allowed to give him over. But I think that's shver, because if someone is chayav misa al pi din Torah, there is a chayav to be meiser him, even shalai b'makam pikuach nefesh. So what is the Rambam proving what I can do for pikuach nefesh of the city? The Maisa of Sheva ben Bichri did not depend on pikuach nefesh of the city. Rather, there's a chayav to give over a person that's chayav misa. So it's a bit of a tzarech ian why the Rambam uses Sheva ben Bichri for that precedent. Okay, so now the parak ends. V'yayav El Kol Tzava Yisrael. Even though David tried to replace him with Amasa, strangely enough, after he killed Amasa, Yayav gets his job back. Yayav is general. Benaya ben Yahayada, who was a great advisor, is in charge of the Kresi Ve'al-Plesi. So Kresi means the archers, the arrows, and Plesi are the slingshot throwers. Right? This is kind of an enumeration of David HaMelech's cabinet. B'pashtus, it is the cabinet as of his return to Yerushalayim, which is the very end of his reign. Adoram al Hamas. Adoram was the IRS commissioner, Tsar HaOtzar, he was in charge of the collection of taxes. Yehoshaphat ben Achilud HaMaskir. Yehoshaphat ben Achilud, otherwise unknown, was the secretary, maybe the appointments person. Sheva Sofer. Sheva was the recording secretary who would take notes. Tzadok and Evyasar kind of shared the kahuna. They were the leading kohanim. Vagam Ira HaYairi, and a man Ira from the city of Yair was a kohen LeDavid. Now here the Mefarshim say this does not mean he was a kohen, because he wasn't a kohen, but kohen means a mishares. He was an advisor to David. Now Yairi actually means he was from Tekoa, and Tekoa produced the best olive oil for the menorah. That's the Mishnah Menachos, Tekoa Alfei L'Shemen, and that's why it was also called Yair, Tekoa, which is the city of light. So at the very end, we're talking about the so-called cabinet that David HaMelech had, B'Seif Yamav, as he returned to Yerushalayim.